Well, good morning, everybody. Back here in the MDF. What we're doing today is we're going to mount some switches. Um, so this is part of the Philips project that I'm talking about, or Patient Vitals. So these switches are being reused. They were mounted in other areas. We've got these mounting ears here right on the front. There they are. So they were mounted in a cabinet. But we're going to move them to these racks over here, which are what we call two-post racks. There's only two of these rails. So in a cabinet, you'll have these rails in the front and rails in the back. So you can mount them in 4 places. And then a two-post rack is like this one. You've only got these 2 posts to mount things on. And the way we've got them mounted over here is like that. The only reason I did it that way is because of the patch panels in the front. But I wouldn't normally do that. In this situation, here's the patch panels we're going to be connecting to. They're all fiber. They're going to come out the front and they're going to come out over to here. Out these cable guides, more or less. So there was some miscommunication when these got mounted. They were put in backwards. So I'm going to put these in front ways. So we're still going to have some backward switches there, but whatever. So the way I'm going to mount these is so that they stick out just enough that I can get to the fiber connectors, the SFP ports on the front, and still be able to run them around into these cable guides up and down this as needed, and then over into these fiber patch panels, which are right in there somewhere. There they are, right there. So, first thing is I'm trying to just kind of eyeball this and see where I want it. And once I do that, I'm going to get the mounting ears. I want to mount them in such a way as that the flange of the mounting ear, let me get one. Sorry for the dizziness. This is the mounting ear. So you've got the, in airplane talk I would call this the web, which goes up against the side of the switch. Like that. And you get the flange up here, which is what actually bolts into the holes there. So what I'm going to do is kind of put the guy in there and eyeball where I want it to be, and then I'm going to go ahead and mount it. So give me a minute. I'm going to need, there we go. I'm going to need 2 hands to do that. I will be right back. Okay, so through careful measurement and manipulation and articulation, I found that if I push these mounting brackets all the way up to these little mounting pegs that stick out, those are designed so that you can put in a mounting ears to the back. The rear mounting ears that I'm not using would slide in between these. It would go underneath this, and then once I screwed this down, it would hold that other mounting slide in place, the rear mounting ears. Since I'm not going to use those, I'm just going to use those little pegs to kind of position where I want this thing. And I found that if I push it all the way against that first set, like that, that's right about where I want it. So give me a second, I'm going to screw those down and we'll see how it fits. Sorry about the hand. So what I found out is the position I wanted to put those in wouldn't work because I would only be able to get 2 screws in here. And for it to really hold, I need 4. So I moved it up a little bit here. I can put 2 screws in here, 2 screws in there. And so it's going to be sitting a little farther back than I'd like, but I think it'll work. Let me put it real quick and we'll show you. Okay, so let me turn this around. So that's a little farther back than I wanted it, but it's still okay because there's plenty of room between here and the back. You can't see it real well, but there's probably a good 1.5 to 2 inches between the back of the cable guide and the front of the switch. So I've got plenty of room to bring those fibers out and wrap them around the front of the switch. So that's going to have to do it. That's where I'm going to have to put it. So And it's okay because, I mean, these under here will kind of help support some of the weight. Shouldn't support all of the weight, but it's okay to support some of it that way. So I'm going to put the, I only put 2 screws in right now just to test the fit. So I'm going to put the other 2 screws in. And I'm going to also go ahead and mount the other switch. So be right back. Alright, we got the first one mounted. There. Now that's a little airspace. So I just got 2 screws holding it in right now. Here's a little pro tip. I may have mentioned this before. I'm going to mention it again because I forgot. When you mount these, there's generally two holes per side, 4 total, 2 on each side. I always put the bottom screw in first, then the top one, because the weight of the back of the switch tends to rock the ears forward like that. So if you screw in the bottom ones, it tends to pull it back in upright. And so these bottom ones are snug now, and the top of the mounting ears are also snug up against the rack. It's going to be a lot easier to put the top screw in. So a little pro tip there. Okay, I'm going to put the second switch in, and I'll be right back. Okay. I'm nursing a sore shoulder. That was no fun. All right, so we got them both in there. They're all screwed with all 4 screws, as you can see, bright, shiny silver screws. So we got these all in and ready to go. Well, ready to be configured. So I've still got to configure these guys and figure out how I'm going to do it. What I would like to do is configure a switch, a lag or aggregate link going to each switch. So 2 fiber pair. 1 fiber pair would go to this port 1 on the top switch, and the other fiber pair would go to port 1 on the bottom switch. And they would be dual homed up to each switch, so that if we have to reboot one or the other of these, it won't bring the network down. And like I said in past videos, those 2 switches are going to replace these 4. So that's a router and a switch. This is just a switch, because they ran out of ports, so they just had to add a couple more. We're going to replace all that. The routing is going to go inside of my fabric, which is in there, over there. So the routing won't be done there, and the switching will be swung over to those guys right there. We're going to get off of this old nasty OM1. When I thought they were going to just do a cutover, I said, well, then let's just use the OM1. We'll just replace each one at a time. They said no, they wanted to bring the second one up in parallel and then migrate the devices over. So yeah, that's fine. So if we're going to do that, we have, get an example there, better example here. We have all this excess OM4 cabling that comes to here. And all we have to do is just add a short little run to here. So, and again, that'll be the layer 2, the switching part of it, and the routing will all be done over here in the fabric. So that's the tricky bit that I'm going to have to figure out. Right now, those 2 switches over there, one connects to this switch, one connects to this switch. And those 2 switches don't work in parallel. So we have 4 cores altogether. 2 work in parallel with each other. And then those 2 talk to the other 2. So this one has a mate up in our data center. This one has a mate up in our data center. These are not a pair. So its peer is up in the data center. This one's peer is up in the data center. And somehow Philips connected across both of these and it works. So I'm going to have to try to figure out what they did and also make it work. So anyway, that's all I got for this week. That's mounting a switch. And I'm going to start working on the configurations of these to at least just get them up and on the network and get the latest firmware on them and put the base config in. And then I'll move from there. So, oh, and the switches that are going to connect to this, that's going to be installed by our professional services partner. They're going to come in and install those switches for me and cable them up and get them cabled to here for me. So that'll be good. So, all right, I've rambled long enough. Hope you guys enjoyed watching me struggle mounting these things. And as always, go out there and live for God. And again, if you have any prayer requests, feel free to send them my way. Put them in the comments. And be happy to pray for you guys. So if you like what you saw, click the subscribe button or the notification bell or both. And we'll see you guys on down the network. God bless.